Hello, book lovers, and welcome to another episode of Authors Love Bookstores from a Mighty Blaze. I'm Joe Moldover. I'm so happy to be with you, and I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to be here today with one of our favorite authors, Christina Baker Kline. A #1 New York Times bestselling author of 8 novels, including Orphan Train and A Piece of the World, Christina is published in 40 countries. Her novels have received the New England Prize for Fiction, the Maine Literary Award, and a Barnes & Noble Discover Award, among other prizes, and have been chosen by hundreds of communities, universities, and schools as one book, one read selections. Her new novel, The Exiles, appears on September 15th. Welcome, Christina. Thank you for being here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Happy to have you. And Christina is joining us to talk about her favorite independent bookstore, Watchung Booksellers, located in Montclair, New Jersey. And also with us is Margot Sage L. from Watchung Booksellers. Welcome, Margot. Thank you for being here. Margot, we want our viewers to learn a little bit more about your store. We know that Christina loves it. We all wish that we could be there with you today. I've prepared a few questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit. So Watchung is located in Montclair, New Jersey. What can you tell us about the community where you live and the community you serve?
So we are located 12 miles west of New York City, and I like to think of us as a rich and diverse community of ex-New Yorkers, a lot of Brooklynites, and artists, a ton of writers, and just kind of regular folks. It's like a small town feeling, even though we're in this like densely populated northern New Jersey area. But
And the bookstore, I know the bookstore was founded in 1991, although not in your current location. Can you tell us kind of your origin story and how the store came to be?
Sure. The store was founded by Kathy Linsk in 1991. It was on the second floor above a pharmacy. I mean, it couldn't be more small town, old schoolish. And I bought it in 96. And then in 2001, actually just before 9/11, we moved down here onto a ground floor bookstore so that we were like more accessible for young families, older folks, just sort of brought us out of the sort of private club enclave that we were on the second floor. That was a lot of fun.
I got it. You know, one of the things I love about independent bookstores is that every independent bookstore sort of has at least one kind of unique feature or sort of fun fact or quirky thing. So there's something that people just sort of love about the store. What do you wish people could be there now to kind of to know about your store? Do you have something that you want to share about Watchung Books with the viewers?
I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that makes us really special is that, and Christina can attest to that we have over 70 published authors in town. I mean, this is a small town. So to have that kind of rich background, intellectual background, sportive background makes us special. And I also think, but I think this is true with most independent bookstores, is that we really try to communicate and contact people. We call ourselves a community bookstore. And I was gonna, as I said earlier, that I've really found out through this COVID-19 shutdown what a community we're in and how supportive they are. So I really truly feel that we've earned our stripes as a community bookstore.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we came on air about kind of how the store has adapted to the COVID shutdown, and we'd love to hear a little bit about that. If you want to show us a visual of kind of what you're doing, feel free, or if you just want to tell us how are you surviving in this environment?
Well, it was from one day to the next. Like I say, we pivoted on a dime from being this charming little hands-on bookstore to being an online order system. We still have, I don't know if you can see here, so front of our store still shows you like all our beautiful displays, our our table of featured books. But then what has happened is that we have just turned into like a warehouse, processing orders, getting them out. We have a table back there that we turned into a mail room, and we have a backdoor pickup where we just have, it seems like we have hundreds of bags waiting to get picked up. It's amazing.
That's so great. That's making me really want to be in a bookstore. And I'm also originally from Northern Jersey. It's oddly making me want to be back in Jersey. So that's great. What are you finding? What are you finding people want to read right now? I mean, what are people buying? What are people interested in? That sort of what do people want now?
So, first few weeks, we were selling a lot of pandemic plague books, like that Sartre's The Plague, Decameron by I'm going to blunder his last name. Stephen King books, it seemed, nonfiction, The Great Influenza by Barry. I mean, people just seemed to want to learn as much as they could. And then beyond that, major fiction, and we've had a lot of good fiction that came out in the last few weeks. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's great. Christina, I'm gonna turn to you. You selected Watchung Bookseller to be the featured indie today. Why don't you start off by telling us just why do you love this bookstore?
Well, I moved to Montclair in the late 90s, and Watchung Books was one of the first places I went. And when we were even looking at houses, everyone mentioned Watchung Books right off the bat. So it was clear that it was a sort of center point for the whole community. And you walk into that store and the staff is really friendly and open. Margot has always been the heart of the store. And it just is a place that feels like somewhere you want to linger. And it's only gotten more and more that way over time, actually. So there was no question to me what the bookstore would be. I lived in Montclair for more than 20 years. And I now live in New York, although I'm in Maine for the foreseeable future. But Watchung Books will always be my hometown bookstore. It just is the place that I think of immediately when I think of where I'd like to do events and people I'd like to hang out with.
That's so great. Do you remember the first time you visited or the first book you bought there?
I remember having, Margot, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember having a conversation with you. I think I was, publishing my second novel maybe, or
Still upstairs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you were still upstairs and I came in and I don't know if you yet had the wall of writers or had started that. I know that's downstairs. That was what you did later, but you have to see, Joe, there's this amazing wall that you really feel like you've made it when you get your name on the wall.
Oh, you go on the wall. I see.
She has all these famous writers and then also all these Montclair writers.
I think of where your name is. Are you closer to the middle of the room?
I'm on the right, I believe. Over there.
I will find
somewhere.
You know exactly where you are. Like it's.
I don't remember, but it's not very big. I know that.
Is it your photo or like your signature?
They have this wonderful like stencil artist, what do you call that? And who has just done various paintings on the walls, and all these names are on the wall. So it's super welcoming, and it's very fun to sort of see my friends on the wall, as well as Tolstoy and other famous writers. So it just feels really welcoming when you walk in. And it always has, even when it was upstairs. Now it's bigger and it has a cafe, and it feels like a very dynamic place.
Wait a minute, you are with Tolstoy.
Am I?
Oh, I see up there. Okay. Yeah.
Here I am.
Yeah, that's pretty good company. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I love that. Christina, for people who have not yet discovered Watchung, if you imagine somebody who's living in North Jersey and has not discovered it, what would you want readers to know about this bookstore?
Well, just that it is, as I said, the heart of the community. I think that Margot is tirelessly, first of all, tireless, and second, tirelessly adaptable. Like Margot, when you moved from doing events offsite, I know you had always done sort of book parties, but then there became, all these collaborations began to happen. The library started a robust program in Montclair events, and then the Montclair Literary Festival, Book Festival came along, and you were from the beginning part of all of that, selling books and making, sort of spreading the name of Watchung Books, but also, you know, enabling people to have these wonderful big events. I mean, I remember doing one with Isabel Allende where there were 600 people and signed books, and it could have been completely chaotic and crazy. And instead it was just it's always run like a well-oiled machine. She always has, Margot always employs kids from the community in the bookstore who are big readers. So there are often high school and college kids there working in summers and throughout the year, as well as her really seasoned staff. So you just know you're in good hands. And I think, Margot, it seems to me that you only hire people who are in love with books. Sometimes you walk into bookstores and, you know, someone's just there for a job. It never feels that way.
No, they love books, but they also love being here in the community, because this is not, I mean, it's not just pulling a book off a shelf and handing it to someone. You really have a conversation with someone to find out what they like or who they want to give a gift to and what their interests are. So it is really a people business.
You know, and before we started this, when we were talking before we were live, I was remarking that Margot was saying, you were saying, Margot, that a hard thing about this period is that you've gone from really being hands-on with people, literally, you know, people would come up and hug you all the time, but also that you sort of serve this role of being able to recommend books and having this community atmosphere. And now you're filling orders, and thank God you have so many orders to fill. There are so many people in the community who are supporting the bookstore, but I know it's very different. I was saying that I think that people who are ordering from you and from other independent bookstores right now are investing in the future, when we'll be back and when we'll have a place to come that's a hub. It's not only about buying the books, because people can get the books online if they want to separately. It's about making a statement about what matters and what people value. And I just think that this bookstore and bookstores like it are valued more now than ever.
I feel like there has been this collective consciousness raising about bookstores and about communities in general, that people recognize that we are going to get to the other side of this at some point. And who is it that you want to see here standing at the end of it? And people have I feel through their purchases, they are giving us a vote for our future. And I truly appreciate that.
I love that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One more thing.
Yeah,
I just want to say one more thing. I don't mean to hog the whatever, but I just want to say that one thing that to me makes Watchung Books really different and special is that Margot hosts, you know, there are many nights of events, readings and things. And sometimes, you know, there'll be 3 people there, and sometimes there'll be 600 people there, and you don't treat anyone differently. The person who has 3 people there, and then if there are 3 people, all the booksellers will come and join in, feels just as welcome and just as celebrated as the person with, you know, hundreds of books. And that's a really unique and wonderful thing. As someone who's been on the road promoting my own books for many years, you don't always get that feeling, or you feel badly if you don't have a lot of people or you've let someone down. And at Watchung, it just always feels like there's a community embracing and finding joy in a new book, no matter what the audience is. And I love that about it.
I love that. That's so great. As a writer who has drawn 3 people and sometimes 2 people to readings, I deeply appreciate that
Me too.
ability to make people feel comfortable and okay. A bunch of questions coming in back channel. Before I get to those, Christina, are there any questions you would like to ask Margot about what's going on right now?
Well, I have a sort of broader question about what the purpose the bookstore serves. And people can buy books online, people can get books anywhere. But Margot, you've created an atmosphere that makes people want to linger. And I just wonder, how did you do that? Like, what were your priorities in creating that space?
Well, I have to say, I love hearing these comments because I have no idea how what we have here affects people. I know, as you said, like there is a love of books. Every display that we have of the books tell a story, and that's because one of our booksellers, Carolyn, does this incredible job. And what people always say to me is, I came in here for one book, I came to get my one book, but then I walked by and I didn't realize I needed this book. And it's the beauty of the covers, it's the discovery of a new author, I don't know, it's kind of like a collection of things that you want to share with people.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, your displays, sometimes they're by color, sometimes they're bird covers, yes. Or like wallpaper covers, it's just or a time of year, Mother's Day, of course, and things like that.
Yeah, I know, but even like the Mother's Day or now we have like Father's Day related books, they're never the same. They're never ordinary, this is the feel-good mom book. We always have, there are edgy books that question, that books that relate to people's own conflicts with their mothers. I mean, it's as much as a good read. I think every display tells a different story.
Yeah, it's so curated. It's so wonderful.
That's great. Margot, online question for you. A couple of online questions. Number one, are you doing any events virtually while the bookseller is closed?
Yeah, so we just are going to start doing that. Initially, we were so slammed and we were very short-handed. So for the first 6 weeks, we were just trying to process orders. And our community partners, the literary festival was supposed to happen at the end of March. And so they were able to also pivot really quickly. And the major authors, the ticketed events, we had Christina interviewed Eric Larson virtually. So we supported that event by advertising it, and we have the books available for the people who attended. So initially we let our community partners handle that, but now we have some of our local authors coming up. Nancy Starr, who is coming out with her book, Rules for Moving, and we are going to have her event online, as well as Candy Cooper, who just came out with Poisoned Water, the YA book about Flint, Michigan. And so she's going to be June 11th. And so then we're just going to keep building on that.
That's great.
The hardest thing too about the events, the virtual events, even though I don't think they're the most optimal way to get for people to learn about a book, but I feel we owe it to our authors to have these events, and our readers in the community do look to us to introduce them to new people. So we're going to be working on that.
I have an event question for you. I always love to hear stories that booksellers have about events, because I think events oftentimes generate all kinds of either terrible or hilarious or types of episodes. It sounds like the Isabel Allende event was a major happening, but was that the most kind of exciting or exceptional event you've ever done, or is there another one that's Christina's shaking her head.
I know what you're gonna say.
Okay, yeah. What's the story?
Well, no, go ahead. You go.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was unbelievable.
It was amazing, and that was in it. I mean, she just came to sign books, and that was it. And to be sold out 1,000 tickets because we were told she could only sign 1,000 books in the 3 hours or whatever that she'd be here. We sold 1,000 tickets in 17 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
stood in line for hours.
for hours, nobody complained about standing in line.
It was a party. It was a
like
party.
block party.
People were like celebrating like mad.
You know, it's funny.
And also what was amazing was watching her, Hillary Clinton herself, just, you know, it was, I think, what, 2 seconds that each person had with her, but you felt like you really connected with her.
Yeah.
She looked, you know, she looked, she signed. It was an amazing thing to watch the whole evening.
I asked that question to another independent bookseller 2 weeks ago, and they told me the same thing. It was the Hillary Clinton tour. But yeah, Oblong Books told me the same thing.
Oh yeah, they had it too. But you know, but I keep saying to people that equally as important events are the small, what I call salon style events, where it is an author, maybe 6 people in the audience. It's an intimate setting. We have incredible conversations here with the authors. And the one thing I learned, and other authors told me this, that when an author comes in to have an event, they're not just talking to the 3 people who are in the audience, they're also talking to the booksellers, and the booksellers will continue to put that book in other people's hands. It's so you're building a relationship in the future as well.
That's right. We are actually beginning to run down on time. I'm gonna synthesize a couple of questions in order to give each of you one more question. So if each of you would tell us either what you are reading right now that you're loving, or what you are looking forward to this summer, either what you're reading now or what you're looking forward to in the future. If you wanted to toss something out there, Christina, I'll go to you first. Is there a current or coming soon book that you're excited about?
Gosh, there are a lot. I've been trying to do events with authors during this time just because it's so hard for new books to get people to get the word out. And so what I did last week was a book called Valentine. And do you know that one, Elizabeth Wetmore? Yeah, it's gotten a lot of buzz, but the author, you know, was suddenly stranded without a book tour, so she's doing a bunch of virtual events. So her book is really powerful. It takes place in Texas, and it's about an assault and the aftermath. And one that I'm looking forward to reading is Sue Monk Kidd's new book, The Book of Longings, which I haven't read yet. So there are millions. I have a stack. What about you, Margot?
Well, I'm going to concentrate on reading the books for the book events coming up. So yeah. I know Candy Cooper's Poison Water, that whole Flint, Michigan situation is like insane. And it's a YA book, but well researched and written and told also through the eyes of kids in the community. So that's the kind of book I like to read.
And can I also say, well, so Candy and Nancy Starr and her wonderful novel that's just coming out, and Candy's book, Poisoned Water, are, we've all been in a writer's group since I moved to town. And this is just the most exciting thing. They shared a pub day yesterday. Yes. And one is serious, like intense and wonderfully received nonfiction, and one is a novel that's also getting great acclaim. So it's very exciting.
I love it. Margot, before we go, I want to make sure that book lovers know what they can do to support Watchung Bookseller during this time. If people need to pick up something new to read, how can they access you? What can they do?
So our website, watchungbooksellers.com, is available, and we have tried to put on the front page searchable, I don't even know what you call them, icons to replicate our tables. We're kind of famous for our tables, like the paperback table, the hardcover table. So you can browse that way. But I also encourage people to call us and just talk through what you're looking for, especially when you're looking for books for children. I think that's it's hard to come up with a prescribed list for, 8-year-old boys and 10-year-old girls. It's like, no, you need to know what they're into, what they're reading, what they want to look for. So we're happy to have conversations and try to have the old school book selling at work.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to thank author Christina Baker Kline and bookseller Margot Sage L from Watchung Booksellers. Book lovers, be sure to check out Watchung online at watchungbooksellers.com to learn more about Christina's novels, including the forthcoming The Exiles. Please visit ChristinaBakerKline.com and join us here next Wednesday for more of A Mighty Blaze's Authors Love Bookstores. Until then, everybody, stay safe, keep reading, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Christina.